of the interesting things, one of the interesting consequences of Obamacare. The profits of insurance companies have doubled. In 2008, the top 10 insurance companies, they had about $8 billion in profits. In 2015, they had doubled to $15 billion. And so, of course, we shouldn't be bailing out insurance companies. And, you know, one of the things that was also very clear, what the Obama administration was doing, writing billions of dollars of checks, was illegal. It was contrary. Congress hadn't appropriated the funds. So the president is doing the right thing.
Lying Ted. Lying. You're a liar. Ooh.
But you have to spell it right. It's Lyin apostrophe. Lion Ted. The Bible held high. He puts it down and then he lies. The Bible.
Just a little comment on the politics of our time. A bit of a distraction from the topic, which is the president's big move in the last 24 hours, re-Obamacare.
And in the last 24 hours, the two of the people the president treated the worst during the campaign, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, have come to his defense and said, this is a good move.
That's politics, man.
Yeah. How about that? The insurance companies have doubled their profits since Obamacare started?
Allegedly. For that little nugget of information or a confirmation and much more, we turn to our good friend Craig, the Obamacare lawyer. Not liar, lawyer. Lion Craig! L-I-I-N apostrophe.
I don't need to spend my Fridays this way.
Long time the Armstrong and Getty Authority on health policy and benefits and that sort of thing. So, Craig, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm glad I got a ha out of you last night when I texted Trump's new move, good thing or bad thing?
Yeah, I thought, screw you, Jack. It's late and I'm drinking scotch already. That's not an easy question.
All right, so for folks just tuning into this situation, what did the president announce? And we'll get to what it means.
The Obamacare, as it was passed in 2010, has two different forms of subsidies in it. The one that we're overwhelmingly familiar with is the assistance in buying the plans, the premium assistance, which goes to anybody making 4 times the federal poverty level or less, okay? There was another lesser-known, more confusing subsidy within Obamacare that was to help people with their deductibles and their coinsurance if they actually made 2.5 times the federal poverty level or less. These are called the cost-sharing subsidies. This is what President Trump eliminated yesterday.
Okay, how big a number is that? How significant?
Well, it's interesting you said that. For the remainder of this year, they're saying it's only $7 or $8 billion. For if it were to continue next year, it would obviously be a much bigger number, about 4 times that. It's significant in that it affects roughly 50 to 60% of all people who are buying exchange plans now. And those people that were affected, those people that were buying what's called the silver plans in the exchange and that qualified for this, not to get too complicated. So roughly you could say this is going to affect half or more of the people buying Obamacare, and it's going to increase their premium above and beyond the other increases they would have seen next year by 10 to 20 more percent.
Okay, all right. So it's well, go on. Is there more we should know?
Let me give you one state example. I'll give you 2 state examples to just hammer this home. So California had announced already back in August. They had said, hey, all of our exchange plans are going to go up 12.5%. However, because they kind of saw this might be coming, they said if the Trump administration does finally eliminate these cost-sharing subsidies, we'll have to increase the price of those plans, double that, up to 25% for the 60% of people in our exchange that are in that boat. Idaho was going to go up 20%. Now, because of this change, Idaho's exchange plans for this half of people is going to go up 40%.
And that's obviously a huge jump. So critics of this all day long, when we're hearing people saying, the people that need it the most are really getting screwed here, is that fairly accurate? Whether or not long term, it's a good idea.
Right. Whether or not, setting all the constitutional stuff aside, setting aside the long term, they're absolutely true. The people this impacts. So you say, well, wait a minute. So this impacts specifically. It impacts people making 135 to 250% of the federal poverty level. People making less than that already get Medicaid, and they're not impacted by this. People making more than 250% of the federal poverty level don't get these subsidies anyway. So just to put that in perspective, for a family of 4, this impacts those families taking home $33,000 to $62,000 a year. For a family of 2, it affects those families taking home $22,000 to $40,000 a year. Okay. And so, again, that's roughly half of the people in the exchanges are going to see a 10 to 20% increase above and beyond what they were already going to see, which was already going to be 10 to 30%, depending upon their state.
Right. So you're already not well off. It could be devastating. But do we have a grip on how many people that is total? Because especially on the left, there's an effort to portray every adjustment, adjustment to Obamacare as affecting everyone's quote unquote health care, when in fact it affects a fairly small group of people's health insurance.
Yeah, that's insanity. So I can answer that two ways. One way is to say on an exchange plan specifically, you're still only around about 12 million Americans that are on an exchange plan itself. This is going to impact anywhere from half to a little more than half. So you're looking at this impacting 6 to maybe 7 million American families.
Worth keeping in mind as you hear the news all day long. We're talking about 7 million people.
Yeah. And now, God bless them. They don't need this kick in the you know what.
But is the point of kicking these 7 million people to try to hurry the demise of Obamacare so everybody's forced to do something about it?
Yes, that's absolutely it, Jack. I mean, there are constitutional purists that look at this and say this is absolutely the right legal move, and I can explain that a little more to you as well. But it is. There's no doubt about it. But that's not why Trump is doing it. I don't think we all sit around and think of Trump as a constitutional scholar, right? Sitting around with Tim the lawyer pontificating. He's doing this because this will hasten the demise of the exchange, and it'll do so right like a month before open enrollment. And it'll do so on the lowest cost people who are actually in the exchange, the lowest income families. So it's going to force Democrats to the bargaining table on health reform again, I think.
Okay, interesting. Craig Gottwals is on the line. We have a link at the website, or will, if you need help with health benefits and that sort of thing. He's an expert in that. He's also an attorney. So just real quick, Ted Cruz in the clip we played just before you came on said that health insurance companies' profits had doubled in the last several years. Is that more or less accurate?
Yeah, that is about accurate. I mean, they play a little bit of games with the numbers, but if you look at the Wall Street reporting, that is about accurate.
Interesting.
So Obamacare has been good for big business. There's no doubt about that.
Which is really, really interesting.
Yeah, you don't hear that pointed out a lot either.
Yeah. What about Rand Paul's plan, which it sounded like the president adopted, saying that anybody could form an association and
across state lines, the circles.
The circles. Well, again with the circles. There he goes with the circles. How significant was that? What do you think of it all?
I think it's a great move in the right direction. However, they're only talking about doing it for individuals and small businesses at this point, which is good. I mean, small businesses is a big step, but it's my understanding that you would need actual legislation to do this on any meaningful large scale. In other words, I foresee that becoming just more of a litigation problem down the road, as there are various state laws and so forth that are not in accord with what the president just wants to do by waving a pen yesterday.
Oh, so I live in state A. I want to cross state lines and buy an insurance plan for state B, but my state's laws say that insurance plan is illegal.
Or the other state, the state B, where you might want to buy it, it may not be legal either, or both, et cetera. Yeah.
Oh boy,
so it's not something that this is not something I think you can do as easily as he said. I certainly think the intent is good and the spirit is good, and you'll get some states that will make this lawful, but to do this in the marketplace I work most with, large businesses, you would need more. You would probably need both federal and state legislation to actually make it functional.
But at this point, it's worth reminding everybody that what we're talking about is not the big company, big market insurance world, except that it's affected by the overall economics of the thing. We're talking about the individual market.
That's
which
right.
Sucks.
And that's true for both the association across state lines topic as well as this other topic on the subsidies. However, I will say that I am starting to see more the bleed over effect of the exchange. Because, for example, in California, just to take one state as an example, the exchanges are going up 12.5% before this move, whereas my employer plans were going up like 6.5%. But those employer plans probably should have only gone up like 5%. I think you're starting to see some bleed over of, insurance companies saying, man, we're losing so much money over here on this particular thing. let's use that as a rationale to jack up premiums across the board for even larger businesses.
My final question, and we're about out of time, so it'll have to be a short answer. Do you still think we're on a more or less irreversible road toward single-payer government health care? It's just a matter of when?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think it's a 10-year, roughly 10-year time frame, and that won't change, guys. My opinion on that won't change until we have some sort of massive change at the federal level on entitlements and deficits and budget, and
which there's no reason to expect.
Yeah, everything in our culture is towards giving away more stuff and paying higher taxes.
Wow, now that's a depressing note on a Friday morning.
My final question is: are you some sort of communist?
Good for you.
This is not what I'm rooting for. It's just what I see.
Good for you for just recognizing reality, which is what your job is. That's what you get paid to do. But it's like, what's his name? The budget director who came out the other day said, look, nobody's going to actually deal with entitlements.
And cut spending.
See, the only way we can deal with this is try to grow. That's what we're trying to do. We've given up on it. It's not that we've given up. It can't be done. We think it's the right thing to do, but nobody's going to do it. So let's deal with reality. Craig's saying the same thing about healthcare.
Yeah, the director of OMB saying, forget it. It's over. The idea of reining in spending is a complete non-starter. I've given up.
Well,
with both parties.
Is his number one problem. I mean, it's even bigger than Social Security, really.
Oh, good point. He's talking about what you're talking about, because that's the big driver.
About the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find Craig Gottwals, non-communist, at benefit-revolution.com. That's it, isn't it? Benefit-revolution.com?
That is right, gentlemen.
All right, and we got to get together for a big, nasty hamburger one of these days, all right?
That's true.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Brock.
This moment in history will go unnoticed and unrecognized.
You just noticed it and recognized it.
Well, but most people aren't going to notice it or recognize it. In that, the really smart people who do this for a living, who want to be responsible, are saying it's not going to happen. That's never going to happen, so let's just deal with reality.
In the words of Warren Zevon, looking for the next best thing, which is somehow stimulating such wonderful economic growth that we can earn our way out of it.
That is interesting.
Mommy's not going to give up cocaine, Johnny. We need you to go work at the shoe factory.
Yeah. You said you have lots of good stuff.
I lied. No, lying, Craig. L-Y-I-N apostrophe. No, we do have some really good stuff. The NCAA's ruling on the North Carolina academic scandal. The scandal was hilarious. The ruling's even funnier.
Awesome.
America's obesity epidemic is getting worse.
Didn't know that.
Yes, and much more.
I know I'm doing my part. Stay tuned to the Armstrong